The hunt is on to find a director for Jurassic World 4, with Steven Spielberg and Frank Marshall seeking out a high-profile, highly talented director to take on the next movie. The only caveat, they'll have less than a year to finish it. The release date is approaching at cheetah speed.
50, 60 miles per hour if they ever got out in the open.
Welcome back to Jurassic Outpost, and in this video we're going to go over all of the latest Jurassic World movie news, including the latest in the hunt for the director, which doesn't appear to be going all that well. It is a fun ride, let's jump in. Thank you for joining us today. We've got some more updates in the development of the next Jurassic World movie. For a brief bit of context, Jurassic World 4, obviously a working title, is now in development, and the studio are speedrunning its release on July 2nd, 2025. The screenplay has been delivered by David Koepp. Word is the studio and all the producers love every page, and that they aren't budging on a director who wants to come in with rewrites. Currently, we don't know the plot, but previous statements by producer Frank Marshall would indicate that the story is going to continue in the timeline established in Dominion and take us into a world somewhat populated with dinosaurs. Some are hoping for a prequel, and there may be a chance that that will happen, and we'll discuss that a little bit later, or perhaps in another video. Not much is known about the movie, of course, other than the fact that the production is set to ramp up very soon at Sky Studios in the UK. Now, we covered the details of that, the whole Sky Studios thing, in our last video, but primarily it's a newish studio close to Elstree Studios and was set up partially to be a home for NBC Universal film and television projects. Anyway, Frank Marshall and his producing partner Pat Crowley are back in the Hammond Creation Lab and are steering the ship alongside Steven Spielberg, who this time round is said to be more involved. That's all we officially know about the movie, but if you've been following along, then you will know that director David Leitch was in negotiation to direct the movie, but left the project on somewhat bad terms. Incredibly, his team supposedly upset Steven Spielberg and Frank Marshall, which led to the brief partnership coming to a very fast end. The studio and the producers are now seeking a director for the project, with the key important factor being that they must meet the rapidly approaching release date. The date is supposedly set in stone for reasons unknown. We do have a number of thoughts about this. We'll break those down in this video, as I'm curious what you guys think about it all as well. With the exception of Jurassic Park 3's unfortunate production, the filming of the Jurassic movies are usually relatively smooth. They've never really been rushed. There's always adequate time allowed for both filming and VFX, so this is definitely a first. The studio are glued to the date. There must be a reason, aside from the obvious fact that the movie industry is a business that needs to generate hefty profit, and that Jurassic World is now obviously a very profitable franchise, as the past few movies have proved. Whatever the case may be, you could look at it from a positive angle. The studio and the producers are very happy with the script, at least that's what we keep hearing. So much so that they are looking for a director to come in and shoot that very script. They don't want any changes, at least that is the word on the street.
What's the word on the street?
The script is locked. And with David Koepp, the one that wrote the script, one can't help but be a little bit excited about that. Dinosaur work and pre-production design work has supposedly begun already without a director in place. We have heard that the movie is attempting to be smaller scale, but also be more action focused. Obviously, seeking out a director like David Leitch would indicate that that is true. Not really sure how they want it to be smaller scale and action focused. The two seem a little bit like a contradiction, especially with the action that we see in Jurassic movies. However, we shall see. So in our last video where we discussed Jeff Snyder's exclusive about the production, I am wondering who his source is. Perhaps somebody deep inside the production playing a Dennis Nedry type role, as they really aren't holding back on smuggling out the company's secrets. It's reminding me of the early Jurassic World days, where there were reports that Steven Spielberg supposedly shouted down the JP4 production office, demanding the movie get delayed a year. Anyway, the modern day Jurassic Goss by the Hollywood Reporter's Heat Vision told us something that really piqued our interest about the development of this movie. It was going to lean into action territory. One source described it as having an escape from New York vibe, but a Universal insider said that was not true. Well, what about the idea of weaponized dinosaurs? The insider said no. So of course, weaponized dinosaurs is something that's been floating around since the early John Sayles Jurassic Park 4 script leak days, something that Steven Spielberg has been wanting in the franchise for quite a while that hasn't successfully made it in. Apparently it's not happening in Jurassic World 4 either, so maybe next time. Now, if you haven't seen Escape from New York, it's definitely not the first inspiration you might expect for a Jurassic World screenplay, but with David Koepp behind it, I am intrigued to see how this could work with Jurassic. It's certainly an interesting setup. Here's the key question. Will they find a director brave enough to take on the 7th Jurassic Park movie? And at this point, you do have to be brave to take on that challenge. A new exclusive from Amblin insider Jeff Snyder reveals even more about the production. And come on, let's try to be real with all of this. The rush that this production seems to have is making us nervous, making us a bit nervous over here. Let's take a look at it. Let's see what we think. The report first sets up to battle David Robert Mitchell's upcoming dinosaur movie with Jurassic's 7th adventure. If you want us to cover what we know about the upcoming movie, currently titled Flowervale Street by the director of It Follows, then let us know. We'll be happy to do so. That movie is really exciting me. It is said to have an Amblin vibe, and that is making Unistudi a little bit concerned, perhaps worried about their tentpole franchise having some competition. They are scrambling for a director as the clock is ticking on the deadline that they are in full control of. Remember, they can change the release date if they so desire. Anyway, the report begins to speculate about other directors that the studio have a good working relationship with to try and find the next candidate. Names like Matt and Tyler, directors of the upcoming Abigail, or Chris McKay, who directed Renfield. Those directors fit the shooter's description in my mind, as Jeff states. He also mentions including Andre Øvredal, who directed The Last Voyage of the Dementor. Now, taking a second, I'm sorry if you enjoyed that movie, but this one was a letdown for me. The trailer psyched me up for a ridiculously bad movie. For this reason and this reason alone, I am out for Andre Øvredal to direct the next Jurassic.
I'm out.
Fine.
Back to it, I can understand the choice seriously, and with the right script, I think he would knock it out the park. I think he would do Jurassic a great service in the horror department. Anyway, so Snyder's exclusive goes on to speculate that J.J. Abrams hasn't directed since 2019 and that he might be looking for the right script, which could end up being Jurassic. As you're aware, he has a good relationship with Spielberg and he might be a good fit, but as Jeff states, he's not a shooter and he's actually producing his own dinosaur movie for Warner Brothers. He continues, Spielberg and producer Frank Marshall are said to be aiming high, but my sources are skeptical that they'll be able to land their top choices due to the rather unusual time crunch for a project of this size. Still, that sounds like something for a recipe for disaster. Rushing to meet a release date very rarely works out for anyone, but Hollywood has never been very good at learning lessons, as Sony is about to find out with Madame Web, judging by the reviews. By the way, the press tour for Madame Web has been hilarious. If you haven't seen anything from it, seek it out. It's funny.
Can you name the 3 Spider-Man Tom Holland movies?
Yeah.
Should I just go on faith?
Yeah.
Oh.
Spider-Man, here he comes.
Here he comes. That's yeah.
number 1.
Yep.
Spider-Man, and he's back. And the other one, the last one is the Goblet of Spider-Man.
Anyway, all valid points in Jeff's article. It has certainly been an odd start to Jurassic World 4's production process. While we want to be as enthusiastic as we can, that's a challenge. That really is a challenge. Whatever you think of the last 3 movies in this franchise, odds are you think it really needs to try and steady itself with whatever comes next. The rush to find the director and the way the movie is reportedly being handled just doesn't fill me with any confidence that they want to get it right, as opposed to wanting to meet the deadline for monetary reasons.
We can charge anything we want, $2,000 a day, $10,000 a day, and people will pay it.
We have a franchise that, at least in my opinion, has more bad movies now than good, and that's a problem. Again, that's my opinion, and you are more than entitled to your own. Share it below. I've said it before, bringing David Koepp back to write the story can be looked at in a positive light, and I'm trying to remain positive even after the David Leitch. David Leitch, come on, man. Anyway, they noticed that the screenplay may have been the issue in the past few movies. Which 2 screenplays delivered great movies? David Koepp's Jurassic Park and Jurassic Park 2, Revenge of the Park. There's some logic in bringing him back, and we shouldn't forget that as we continue to learn more about this somewhat strange production. But what do you think? Are you worried about Jurassic World 4, or are you just hoping that they land this one? Share your thoughts down below.